Hello, and welcome back in. So, now that we have NHL 23 released and the NHL regular season has started, most teams have played a game at the time of this recording. I think at this time, St. Louis may finally be getting their season started. This year had the weirdest staggered start I've seen in ever. I mean, the NHL season technically started a week ago, and then it's just kind of been one trickle snowball after another. But I digress. So, what we have today is we're going to be starting a series that I'm just going to call Quest for the Calder, as you see way up over there. Regardless, and what this is going to do is this is actually going to track game by game. It's not going to be okay. Let's see how many years, how far I can get this be a pro. It's just going to be one player, the rookie. He's not supposed to be the game ender. You have to win the Stanley Cup. He's just a draft pick. So when I decided which team I was going to do for this particular playthrough, I started with Calgary for a couple reasons. One, I went through and made sure I found a team that had the number 15 open. Then I looked at all the teams available and I was looking for a team that is a good team. It's likely to make the playoffs, but not a contender be all end all juggernaut like Tampa. So I wound up just going with Calgary, and we're just gonna see how things go. So you've noticed that there isn't a whole ton of sound coming out of the game. That's because I turned off the commentary because as much as I don't mind listening to James Sabalski, I've heard enough of him personally. So there won't be commentary. I also wanted to give it a little more of a player feel rather than a video game feel. So taking the commentary out, I've always found does a pretty good job of that. And also, I'm not going to have any music playing in the background because all of it is copyrighted. And I thought, well, I'll just go with this soundtrack theme, and no, I wasn't feeling it. So we're just going to kind of play through, and the rookie's going to get to play his first NHL game. So I went through the preseason, and I was kind of trying to figure out where the sittings. He's got a jig. He's ready to go. He's happy. Um, I went through and I was like, how hard can I make this? And I went through a few different seasons, pre-seasons. I think I've done like 3 or 4 now, so I've feels like I've already got a half season under me. So yeah. That being said, I basically went through and I picked the settings until I got to a point total at the end of the regular or preseason that told me the game's not broken, where I'm not going to score any points, and I'm not gonna wind up, having 130 points as a rookie. That's not going to happen. So when I got to the settings that I got to, or basically I wound up coming out to, I think it was like 56 points that I projected out from the regular season to an 82 game schedule, and I'm like, you know what, that sounds about right for a good rookie. So, um, want to win, but I don't want the game to be easy. I don't want it to just be, oh, here's a walk off and we're done here, right? So, and of course, the schedule makers must really not like Calgary. There's 2 years that 2 years in the last 3 or 4, I think, that Calgary's opened up with Colorado. The last time that they did that, Colorado had knocked Calgary out of the playoffs, and Daryl Sutter had a great comment to it. It was Brad Treliving, the GM. The schedule makers must have a sense of humor or something. So now that Calgary gets to open up against the Stanley Cup champions, that can't really feel that much better. So we'll see how we do on this one. We're already one shift down, and that felt all right. The one thing that I'm noticing with how I've got the settings set up is it's really hard for me to avoid taking penalties. you know, when you get used to, okay, I'm just gonna set this on easy, go score a bunch of goals and call it a day. Now that I'm actually going to be trying to play defensively and to actually be responsible, I find that I'm trying to do too much. So I'm throwing a poke check where I shouldn't, a high stick where I shouldn't. But that's also not helped by the low discipline, where it's really easy for me to take a penalty doing those things. And it usually just boils down to don't try to do too much, right? And that was something that actually had occurred to me during this preseason. I was watching. It was an interview or something with the Vancouver Canucks, one of the coaching staff, and their new player Kuzmenko had a good showing, but they made a note that he was trying to do too much. And as a rookie, you're trying to win your job. You're trying to show that you fit in a spot that likely is already penciled in for a more veteran player. But yeah, at what point are you trying to do too much, where you're kind of cutting your nose off to spite your face? So apparently they saw that in him, but wound up making the opening night roster, so it worked out. But weird, I didn't think I was going to be on the... Oh, it's a 4-on-4, that's why. Pay attention. I thought we were just on the penalty kill, and I'm like, I thought I was scratched from the penalty kill. Which is fair. I had one preseason game where it was bad. I think it was like a 8-3 game, and I was a -5 because I was out there for basically every goal that was scored on both sides, so that didn't really feel great. And that's one thing that gets frustrating with this game sometimes, because you're trying to play smart, you're trying to do what you can, but it's almost like the AI on your team is just like, it goes into juniors mode where it's like everybody's a WHL player or something, and that can get annoying. So hopefully we don't run into that too much throughout the season, but again, this is just definitely more of a let's be a rookie. Let's see where we can sit in the Calder race at the end of 82 games, and hopefully near the end of the season we'll be looking at getting the playoffs as a rookie. That would be kind of cool. And I've always wondered with rookies, to be honest, the ones that happen to be lucky enough to be on a contending team that actually winds up winning the Stanley Cup, like does that do something to their mentality, where they think, oh well, that was pretty good, I can look forward to being in the Stanley Cup final a lot. And I've heard commentators before point out that if you make the Stanley Cup final, if you win the Stanley Cup in your first year, you really have to hold on to that moment, because you may never see it again. And that was kind of I don't know, it was a weird realization when that was pointed out to me. Okay, I'm getting off. Line change. That's a big one, is because I'm not a center, because I set up my character to be a center, forgetting that Calgary has Backlund and Lindholm and Kadri, and it's like, there's no room on me, or no room at center for me, so I'm going to be playing the wing probably most of the year. I don't see me having a good enough season to be pushing a center out of their spot, so. But I'm fine with that. Again, I'm not trying to set the world on fire. I'm just wanting to have a fun, realistic rookie season. Oh yeah, and of course, cut in the wrong way. Okay. so slow. That's one thing that drives me nuts about rookies, because a lot of what makes rookies stand out, what makes them, you know, Calder material, is they're so fast, but or patient. I'll take my first NHL goal in my first NHL game. We'll take that. I don't think that was my first shot. Was that my first shot? No, that couldn't have been. I was gonna say I'll check at intermission, but if I ooh, yikes. So, all right, I'll take that. Wasn't my first shift by any stretch of the imagination, but hey, you know what? First goal in your first game, you'll take that any day of the week. So, yeah, buddy. I didn't use my special celebration. You'd think you'd do that for your first NHL goal, but oh well. So far we're looking at a total of, so me and Mikko Rantanen are on pace for 82 goals. That's excellent. I always find that funny at the beginning of the season when they're like, oh yeah, this person scored a goal, on pace for 82 or whatever it is, and you're just like, yeah, because that's how that stat works. That's only on 7 shots, so that's not bad. Markstrom's holding up pretty good at 10 shots, one goal. That's about on pace. I looked it up, and I think the average, they say the average shots on goal comes out to about 30.5 per team per game. So, you know, if you want your goaltender to hold a 9-10 is generally what you're hoping for. That's one goal every 10 or 11 shots. That's pretty acceptable. Come on. Oh. Of course I had to be on the ice for that one. Put me right back at a plus minus of break even, so dead zero. I always wondered what people think of plus minus. I know it's one of those stats that everyone's like, it's a dumb stat. Some people are like, it's a fantastic stat. Just because there's so much that influences that stat. I find it's a okay. We'll get to a playmaker. Why do I have 2 goals already as a playmaker? Maybe Colorado's goaltending wasn't as good as I expected. He barely tried for that. All right, I'll take it. But yeah, plus minus, it's a really weird stat because it skews so easily and it doesn't tell the whole picture. I personally, I like plus minus as a stat. I don't, almost tripped. Are you gonna, where was the holding call on that? Seriously? Am I gonna be like the next Austin Matthews? Just hit him with the 4? That was a painful thing to live through. I'm glad it didn't last that long. But plus minus, yeah, it's a stat that I personally do like. I don't hang my hat on it. I don't live and die by it by any stretch of the imagination. But it can be a good indicator of what you're looking at with a player. Like how effective, how helpful is a player actually to you? Probably one of my favorite examples was the late 2010s. Alexander Ovechkin, you know, he scores 50 goals a season. I think that's his average. His career average is 50 goals every season, which is nothing short of remarkable in that kind of goal scoring. any team will take at any opportunity. But before this Capitals really started getting into contention, he had a really bad plus minus, like it was bad. And when you understand that, you know, you got to be there offensively and defensively, like it's hard for a player to truly be one or the other. His plus minus was a good indicator. There's a massive hole. Yeah, he's going to score you 50 goals, but you know, if he's out there and costing you 60 through the season, like that's not really helping you. And in 2018, when they finally pushed and got to the cup, no shortage on their firepower, his plus minus went up. He started playing better defense. I still wouldn't call him a defensive linchpin by any stretch of the imagination. But when that number went up, you started noticing that he was a more complete and better player overall. And that's huge. So again, I don't live and die by the stat, but it's a stat that I don't ignore by any stretch of the imagination. So, you know, I figure if I can be above a minus, maybe a minus 10 by the end of the season, I'll take that, because it's hard for rookies to walk out with a good plus minus stat. And the other thing is, I want to be a little bit lower on the penalties than I typically am throughout a season. Again, I try to do too much, and then I do something stupid, like I had to poke check Cale Makar on a breakout. I'm smart, and I get caught out of position. I panic, and then I trip somebody. Is usually my big one. Stick lifts are a hard one for me too. I don't really time those out very well, so those are my goals. That's what I want to aim for is low penalties. You know, at least not like top 5 in penalties. Most of the time when I play throughout a season, I'm the leading penalty leader, so that's kind of got to stop. You're not really a good team player if you're always in the penalty box, but you're supposed to be one of the top end performers, right? So, and there's some guys that still have a job in the league with the high penalties. There's still a call for your goons and questionable power forwards, you know, like Tom Wilson. But I don't want to be that guy. I want to spend more time on the ice than in the box, for sure. And speaking of which, players like Tom Wilson, like, I'm going to get a lot of flack, and there's a lot of people that are about to turn the video off, like right here, right now, if they haven't already. Tom Wilson is a player that I don't have this hate for him that most people do. I don't really have a reason to be like, oh, he's a fan favorite, like nothing like that. But I do find that the longer his career goes on, and the more the suspensions slow down with him, I actually kind of like what he provides to the Capitals. It's definitely very important, and it's definitely noticeable when he's not around. Again, if he could cut the over-the-line stuff that gets him taken out of the lineup, I'd like him a lot more, because even though he does this goony stuff that most people can't stand, especially if they're against Tom Wilson, he backs it up. He will turn around and he'll stand his ground and answer the bell if he has to. That's a quality that I definitely respect in a player. That's where the difference between him and Brad Marchand come in for me. Where, not saying Brad Marchand's not tough, but he's squirrelier, you know, not quite so ready to answer that bell. And you're talking two guys that are vastly different sizes, so I get it. But that doesn't change the fact that if you're going to do something stupid, be ready to answer the bell. Okay. Getting the third period of our first game going, and it's looking pretty good so far. I mean, I've got 2 goals. The score is 3-2. Oh, scoop! I can't believe that actually worked. I'm not fast enough. Oh, that's one thing that's super important with training. Make sure you get your speed up and your acceleration a little bit, because it's hard to make a play when you can't outrun anybody. Sure, why not? Get a shot down low. In hindsight, as a playmaker, I probably should be the guy behind the net ready to, pick that up. But, I mean, my first game, give me a break. It's first day on the job. But, there's going to be people that'll tweet out, oh, what a bust. Actually, if you've got 2 goals in your first game ever, you shouldn't be labeled as a bust. What do you want from me? Well, you got to be a Vezina candidate coming out of the game, too. I'm a forward. Okay, you want to talk about players that should get a massive amount of respect. Guys with a lot of blocked shots. Mark Giordano, obviously, being that there is a Calgary connection here that I am very aware of, the Calgary Flames. He was a player that no matter what media reports say this, that, because he's been called a dirty player. I really never saw anything from him personally that was egregiously bad for to be considered a dirty player, but he consistently in the prime of his career, like top 5 blocked shots perennially. And that's the kind of thing you got to respect from a player, is the guys that will go, this is probably going to hurt, I'm going to do it anyway. Me personally, no thanks. If I'm on the ice, I'm going to get right out of the way. If someone's going to shoot, let them score. It's not worth an emergency room visit for me. But I also don't make, $5 million or $6 million a year. All right. I was gonna say, are you guys just gonna play keep away back there? Like, thanks. I feel like I got trapped or set up, or how would that look like to anybody else? Because that felt like I was kind of doomed as soon as I got the puck. No. Don't go starting fights. I'm not afraid to start a fight with somebody. Cale Makar, you want to talk about an impressive hockey player? Actually, I was on Twitter. I think it was yesterday or something. Got a contest. If you go find him on Twitter, it's they're giving away a $100 gift card or something for Fanatics. And he wanted to know about people's favorite Avalanche moment from the season, which, I mean, you're going to have a lot of those. And I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, well, I had to think of all the moments in the Avalanche's season last year, including the playoffs. I'd have to say the Western Conference Final and Connor McDavid's coming up the ice like a bat out of hell, because that's what he does. Cale Makar's staying with him. He gives a poke check and misses, stays with it, and then the second time he pokes it out, he just thunk, picked it right off his stick like it was another Tuesday at the office. And that's what I said when I responded to it, is he made that look like it's another Tuesday at the office. to one of the most effective forwards in the game. Sure, I play the guy up, and this is what he does to me. This is what he does. Friends off. Friends off. I can't do that. That's not fair. He's just doing his job. But yeah, so I had to say that was probably my favorite moment, my favorite highlight I watched, and probably one of my favorites overall in the last couple of years, because because McDavid is such a terrifying player, and I remember watching him. It was against the Leafs, because of course it was. And he's just kind of gliding. He's looking over. He's coming into the offensive zone. It looks like he's getting ready for a pass. Morgan Riley's sitting there. He's waiting for it. And then all of a sudden, he just cranks it into third gear out of nowhere. And, of course, he slips Morgan Riley, because he went from 0 to 100 in 2 steps. And everyone kept blaming Riley. Like, oh, this, that. Like, what was Riley going to do there? That's what makes him so good. And I think everyone's just too critical and too ready to blame a player, when Morgan Riley did exactly what he's supposed to do, and then just all of a sudden McDavid's like, yeah, that's not what we're doing. Honestly, I think that was just really nothing more than a show of how impressive his skating actually is, right? Now, for me, the reason I say McDavid's one of the most effective forwards and not just the best player in the game is because I have my reservations about coining that for a player any year. And it's not to try and discredit or make it seem like I don't think that player is exactly as impressive as advertised. It's such an open-ended argument, and it really depends on what's the metric you're measuring from, right? You want to talk about pure goal scoring, for my money, that's got to be Austin Matthews. He showed that he can hit 60 goals. I personally, in his young career, don't think that'll be the only time he does so. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Only time will tell. Now, if you're talking about, if you're talking the best skater and probably the best, McDavid reminds me of Wayne Gretzky, and big hot take. Oh, hear me out for a sec. It's because it's like he's got 360 vision, and that was one thing that Wayne Gretzky pointed out that he thought was underrated about him. You could have something underrated about the best player in the game, period. But he pointed out it was his vision. And I see a lot of the same thing about McDavid. The plays he creates, not just on his own, but his passing ability comes from his ability to see the entire ice at all times, it seems like. So for me, it's hard to say. Now, if you want to throw cap complications into it as well, I would take Draisaitl over McDavid any day. Any day. I like Leon Draisaitl. I know he's not the best all-around forward, but when you're talking a cap hit that's 2/3 of what McDavid's is, and he puts up basically the same production, he's also bigger and stronger. That for my money, I personally think I would take Draisaitl, gun to my head, most times. But I would say, as far as the smartest player in the league, that to me, that's still got to be Sidney Crosby, right? You were watching a video where it was pointed out that back in 2011, we were looking at the question of, is he going to be playing hockey in a couple of years because of all of his injury complications? Here he is, years and years later, and he's still one of the best forwards and probably the best captain in the league. And he looks like an ageless wonder. So what's the metric that somebody uses to define the best player? And right now you could have multiple answers. There's a lot of people that swear up and down by Hedman because of his defensive ability. Is he the best defenseman in the league? I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that one. But then you look at Igor Shesterkin, best goaltender in the league. Oh yeah. Right now I would say he's going to be continuing this season on right where he left off last season. Does that make him the best player? Well, that depends. Do you hold more weight in a goaltender being the best player, or do you hold more weight for a forward? But that's twice I was knocked down. Of course it was McKinnon. Of course. Come on, Nate. Come on, Nate. Why did I not hold him? Whoa! It's not okay. Oh! I can't outspeed anybody here. Hello? Don't leave me for the breakout. That's not going to end well. And of course it was a squeaker that went by. Well, we made it to overtime, so at least we got 1 point out of it. Not really the way Calgary actually started off against Colorado this season, but I digress. Just a game. I must say, there's a lot of little touches this year over last year that don't make the game astoundingly improved from last year, but noticeably. This is also just from Be a Pro, so you really have to take any little win with Be a Pro that you can, because it's not online, it's not HUT, it's not generating additional revenue. But I am glad that over the last few years, go through the 3 stars, over the last few years, they've actually been putting a little bit more care back into the offline modes. 2 goals and a hit. Oh, I probably should have mentioned I'm on a coach's challenge coming out of the preseason, where in my first 5 games they were hoping to get 2 goals, 2 assists, and 5 hits out of me. So that's a good start. Probably should have mentioned that part before we started. So, but oh well. So that was a pretty solid first game. The rookie looked good. That's one thing, again, why I turned some of the commentary off, is because it is a lot of the same recycled couple quotes. So gonna have to go back and check. Make sure that's not playing through. Maybe Sobolski's still talking. I don't have my headphones on, so not that worried about it. Ooh! I learned myself a little bit of power play time. My PK time went down. That's fine. I'm not worried about being on the penalty kill. They put me on there. I'll do what I can. I'm just I'm not a great defensive forward, no matter how hard I try. And I also realized I didn't get a coach's challenge that game. That's weird. I mean, what we were doing was working. It basically just came down to sudden death. You're not going to argue with that. So that's my game stats. So 2 goals, no assists for 2 points, plus minus of 1. So nothing to really talk about. Oh, I have a 100 shooting percentage right now. I only took 2 shots that entire game. I'll take that, because normally I'm like 10, 12 shots a game. That's not what a playmaker does. So, and 1 hit. So, I definitely like playing the tougher players. So I like throwing the hits. I like getting into fights. Of 14 minutes and 36 seconds time on ice. So I'd say that was a pretty solid debut. There's all those stats and followers, and I really have to look into what all this is. I never really looked into it last year, but I do know that of these three that are here on the screen, so your brand management and teammates likability. My focus is always teammates. I believe brand helps with experience, maybe, and management is affects how easily your lines are affected by good and poor games. Um, but teammates are what, like, the more your teammates like you, the more they're going to feed you the puck if you're in a good spot, that kind of thing. So I will definitely focus more on teammate likability, but obviously I want all of those to go up. So we'll see how she goes. Oh, and also I'm not gonna be grinding on, like, if I go a couple games without a point, I'm not really gonna stress on that too much, because the way this works is your overall performance is um is basically judged on how well you perform overall. So your overall your offense, defense, and team play, if you have those good, then you're not going to be negatively impacted hugely. Okay. Incredible. I know my team gave me a chance to score my first goal in my first game, and I'm thankful for that. Oh, yeah. That also helped that Georgiev figured I needed a couple freebies, so that's probably all my luck for the rest of the year gone. Score 2 points next game. Uh, it's goals if it's assists. That means that I have to guarantee 2 points. You know what? I'll do this because I could use the management likability a little bit anyway, so get that back on the positive side. So okay. So yeah, so these videos, they're only going to be one game each. They're likely going to be a little bit longer, but I kind of want to just kind of keep them as easy to watch, easy to listen to, that kind of thing. So, but that being said, the next game that we have up will be coming up on. Actually, it's going to post later today. I've got to post both of these first two games, and then the rest of these will sequentially come out on Calgary game days, unless I get traded, and then it'll go to Pittsburgh, or if I'm really lucky, Arizona. So we'll see. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. If you did like the video, please hit like. Um, if you want to see more, please hit subscribe, and it'll always update you when I throw out a new video. And happy 2022-2023 NHL season, and I will see you guys in the next video. Till then, thank you and all the best.